Everyone who met Theo agreed on one thing. He looked exactly like a tiny, furious storm cloud that had somehow grown legs and learned to sprint. He was gray. He was enormous for a cat. His face carried the permanent expression of someone who had just been told something deeply disappointing. And from the moment Patricia opened her front door and set his carrier down on the living room floor, he had one speed: full. Patricia had found Theo on the side of Elmwood Drive on a Wednesday afternoon in late September, sitting in the grass beside a gas station with no collar, no chip, and no apparent interest in being found. She had pulled over to check on him. He had looked at her with those flat, unimpressed eyes for approximately 4 seconds and then bolted across the parking lot, through a hedge, and disappeared. She had spent 40 minutes looking for him, checking under parked cars, calling into the hedge, feeling increasingly foolish in a gas station parking lot on a Wednesday afternoon. She found him sitting calmly on the other side of the hedge, apparently having completed whatever he needed to do over there, entirely unbothered by the search. She took him to the vet. She put up one sign: nobody called. By the end of the week, she had bought food, a litter box, and a cat bed he would never once use. She named him Theo because it sounded like a name for someone who moved fast and apologized for nothing. She was 51 years old. She had lived alone for 6 years, following a divorce that had been, in her own words, a long time coming and a relief when it arrived. She had 2 plant houses, a very organized kitchen, and a weekend routine she had refined over years into something quiet and reliable. Saturdays, farmer's market, then reading. Sundays, long walk, then cooking for the week. She was, by her own description, a person who had her life arranged exactly the way she wanted it now. Theo did not care about any of that. The first morning, Patricia woke at 6:50 to a sound she could not immediately identify. It was coming from the hallway. She opened the bedroom door to find Theo in full sprint from one end of the apartment to the other, reversing direction at each wall with the practiced efficiency of a cat who had been doing this for years and had the turning radius down to a science. She stood in the doorway for a moment. "It's 6:50, she said. He did not slow down. By the end of the first week, Patricia had cataloged his schedule: 6:48 a.m., indoor laps; 7:15 a.m., breakfast, consumed at a pace that suggested he was late for something immediately after; 7:30 a.m., outdoor circuit, which involved the full perimeter of the garden, a focused investigation of the hedge on the left side, a sprint across the lawn that he performed with his ears flat and his expression somewhere between determined and personally offended, and then back inside. Repeat as needed throughout the day. She had never owned a cat before. She had assumed cats were calm. She had been completely wrong about this. I see you haven't subscribed yet. That honestly makes me a little sad. Hit that button. You won't want to miss what comes next. Her colleague, Margaret, called one evening and asked how the cat was settling in. Patricia sat down and described the whole thing: the schedule, the 6:48 laps, the hedge investigation, the sprinting. Margaret was quiet for a long moment and then said, "That sounds absolutely exhausting." Patricia considered that. "It's actually kind of amazing," she said. She surprised herself saying it, and more than that, she found she meant it completely. Because here is what Patricia had not expected. Watching something move like that, with that complete, uncomplicated, total commitment to going, does something to you. It gets into the edges of your day. It rearranges things you thought were fixed. Stories like this are the reason we started this channel. If something in you just shifted, you already know why. Patricia had been meaning to get back to running for 3 years. She had running shoes in the closet. She had a route she had mapped and never taken. She had told herself she would start in spring, then summer, then after the busy period at work, then definitely before the end of the year. On a Thursday morning in October, she watched Theo complete his garden circuit for the 4th time, hit the far corner of the lawn at full speed, and turn without breaking stride. She went inside without thinking about it too hard, put on the running shoes before she could change her mind, and went out the front door. She ran for 11 minutes before her lungs made the decision to stop without consulting her. She walked the rest of the way home. Theo was sitting at the front window watching her return with the expression of someone who had expected her back considerably sooner. She went out again the next morning, and the morning after that. By November, she was running 25 minutes without stopping. By December, she had a route. By January, she had signed up for a beginner's running group that met on Saturday mornings, which meant the farmer's market moved to the afternoon, which meant her Saturdays were different now, which meant the carefully arranged routine she had spent years perfecting was different now. She did not mind. She minded less than she had ever minded anything. Her friend Carol, who had known her for 20 years, called in February and said she sounded different. Different how? Patricia asked. Carol thought about it. Faster, she said. You sound faster. Theo was in the garden when Patricia took that call. She could see him through the kitchen window. Gray blur across the green, ears flat, face completely serious, going at full speed across the lawn for no reason that Patricia had ever been able to identify, and for every reason she had come to understand completely. Some creatures just run. It is not a problem to be solved. It is not a behavior to be corrected. It is simply what they are, entirely and without apology. And if you're lucky enough to watch it happen every morning from your kitchen window, something in you eventually stops being still, too. Patricia still has her organized kitchen. She still cooks on Sundays. She still goes to the farmer's market, just later now, after the run. Theo still does his 6:48 laps. He still investigates the hedge with the intensity of a professional. He still sprints across the lawn every morning with that flat expression and those enormous gray paws and the air of a cat who has somewhere to be and is not interested in explaining where. Every morning, Patricia opens the back door. Theo goes out. She watches him for a moment, that ridiculous, furious, magnificent sprint across the grass, and then she puts on her shoes. She has run 4 5Ks now. She is training for a 10K. She told her running group about Theo once, how it started, what watching him did to her routine. One of the women in the group said, "So a cat changed your life?" Patricia thought about it for a second. "He just reminded me what going full speed looks like," she said. "I'd forgotten." Theo has not forgotten. He never will. Some people come into your life and change everything. Sometimes it is not a person at all. Sometimes it is a gray cat with a serious face and one speed, sitting in the grass beside a gas station on a Wednesday afternoon, waiting to be found. Did you expect a cat to be capable of this? Or did you already know? Tell me in the comments.